Alright guys, welcome back to What Would They Think, where I take two characters and not so much fight, but more like what would they think of one another. And today, yeah, as you can see, what would Peridot think of the Martian Manhunter? You're probably thinking, really? John Jones? That's who you're gonna have Peridot meet, not Zim? First off, I figured Zim would be too easy, so... And plus, there are, I think there could be some cool stuff between Peridot and Jean. I think there would be a lot of cool stuff between those two characters. Now, the big thing about both Peridot and John Jones have in common is that they're kind of the outside look. They're two outsiders who have now been forced to live on Earth, and now pretty much kind of adjust to life, to human life. And slowly, both of them did, both of them slowly understood, the value of Earth as well as, the love for it. Whereas Jean, his planet was destroyed and then he was brought to Earth forcefully and took on the identity of John Jones, a detective. He then proceeded to slowly understand life by living among, and humans living among them. Peridot is in that same vein, where, however, she was trying to destroy Earth first, and her evolution took a little while longer. So, both of them do have do have this kind of outside looking in kind of mentality between the two characters. The thing with Martian Manhunter is that I think when he first meets Peridot, he'd be like, I was not aware that gems were so small. Yeah. And of course Peridot would be freaking out because, oh my god, it's a Martian, I thought you were all wiped out. This is amazing. This is the most amazing thing ever. I must study you. That's probably the sentence that would probably that's more than likely how it would go, more or less. So the thing with Peridot and Jean is that I think the both of them would really kind of talk about Earth, and I think Peridot, even though she's now protecting the Earth, she's now technically part of the Crystal Gems, there's still a lot about Earth she needs to understand. And I think if they ever met, I think Jean would be the perfect character to help understand those kind of things, like them talking about humans and their experiences. That's the big thing I would like to see, is Peridot and Martian Manhunter talking to one another about their experiences with Earth and the human culture, where Jean would kind of talk about his encounters with humans and understanding. They're not great. They're not they want to be great, but I think they need help. They need help, and they're it's they're like children, really. Where Peridot would be like, yeah, loud, noisy, annoying children that don't know when to quit. So that would kind of be the back and forth between them, is that both these characters would kind of like they have the same general views, but how they view humans is a little different. Even though I think Peridot would be a bit more, she'd be a little bit more sharper about it, depending on how where was I going with this? How well the how well her understanding of humans has grown since her time joining the Gems. So that's kind of the big thing, is that John has had years. He spent years undercover as a human, long before he he revealed himself to be the Martian Manhunter. Whereas Peridot's only been around for a few months, so her, she may care about, she's starting to understand and care about the Earth, but she's still kind of she's still a little novice about it. She's still rusty around the edges and still trying to understand Earth. And I think if they ever met, I think Martian Manhunter would be that kind of gateway, and just kind of, just talking to her about, understand, what it's like to understand humans when you're not human yourself, and understanding the emotions, the culture, even the little things such as music and how humans view each other would be interesting. And I think that Jean would be a great teacher for her on that. The other thing, and this is probably this is the one thing I would love to see, is Jean introducing Peridot to Oreos. He would be like, the best place to start with understanding humans is understanding their food. I don't necessarily eat their food, but I've taken a great I've taken a great appreciation for their Oreo cookies. Now you're all probably imagining Peridot eating Oreos with Jean. That scene is now in your head. Just those two eating some cookies, some Oreo cookies, and with milk and enjoying themselves. I also think it would be fun to see those two kind of work together scientifically. Both of them, having a great extensive knowledge of science, and both. I'd love to see them both work together on like a science project. And Peridot's very headstrong, but at the same time, she's very quick-witted. Whereas Jean is very calm, cool, and collected, and doesn't let doesn't let anything get in his way. In terms of doesn't let any difficulties get in his way unless they're fire. So I can imagine them working on a project, and Peridot's like hit a wall, and she's like, "Ugh," and starts smashing things, and Jean's just looking at her like, "Oh, good lord." That's more than likely how it would all go down. In that, it's just Peridot would just be wrecking shit, and Martian Manhunter would be like, "Again, I cannot get. I'm just gonna let her burn herself out, and then I'll continue." But yeah, that's how I kind of see them working together. The big thing between them is that obviously Peridot doesn't really have any abilities left unless we discover, she discovers her gem weapon, which I'm really, really curious if we're going to get that. And if another thing I've always kind of wondered is that gems have their own corporeal minds? Do they have, can you enter their minds because they're polymorphic rocks? They're quintessentially rocks. Their bodies, as you see them, are really just formations of those stones. So really, that's kind of how it is that could Jean reach into Peridot's mind and read her thoughts? Because quintessentially, she's just a rock. But these are sentient rocks, so there's that science question's going to keep you up at night, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, I think these two would get along. Not at first, definitely they would probably not be getting along right off the bat. I think there would be some animosity because, or actually no, it'd be more like they're scientific rivals at first, and I think Jean would have to be very patient with Peridot to an extent. So that's kind of how I see it. But you guys tell me, what do you think it would be like what would Peridot think of the Martian Manhunter? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.